Captain Taiho Kim stood tall on the bridge of the Earth Coalition vessel Dauntless, his dark eyes fixed on the main screen where a massive alien ship waited. Today would change human history forever. After centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, humans had their answer. "Status report," Taiho said, his voice steady despite the tension. "All systems normal, Captain," replied Officer Dohyun at the control panel. "The diplomatic team is ready. The alien vessel remains in position." Taiho nodded. "Open a channel to all ships in our fleet." A small light blinked green, and he spoke to the 5 ships under his command. "This is Captain Kim. Today we represent not just Earth, but all of humanity. These aliens, the Vosari, have contacted many worlds before ours. Our job is to establish peaceful relations. Stay alert, follow protocols, and remember your training. Kim out." He turned to his first officer. "Jia, you have the bridge. I'll lead the diplomatic team." Lieutenant Jia Kang nodded. "Good luck, Captain." The meeting room on the Dauntless had been specially prepared. A large round table dominated the center, a deliberate choice to show equality. Taiho sat with his team. Engineer Jiwon Park, Communications, Officer Mina Han, and Dr. Subin Lee, their xenobiologist. "Remember," Taiho said quietly, "we know very little about their culture. Be respectful, but firm. We come as equals." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Taiho and his team stood as the aliens entered. The Vosari were nothing like humans had imagined. They stood nearly 3 meters tall with bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with their movements. Their leader, who had identified himself as Supreme Commander Ulex, had scales that glowed with a deep purple hue. 4 arms emerged from a broad torso, and a long tail swayed behind him as he walked. "Captain Kim," Ulex said, his voice translated through devices Engineer Park had created. "We finally meet in person." Taiho bowed slightly. "Supreme Commander, welcome aboard the Dauntless. We are honored to be the first humans to speak with the Vosari Empire." Ulex did not return the gesture. He simply sat, his large frame making the human-sized chair look like a child's seat. "Let us not waste time," Ulex said. "The Vosari Empire spans over 200 star systems. We have brought order and progress to dozens of species. Now we offer humans the same opportunity." Taiho kept his face neutral. "What kind of opportunity do you mean?" "To join the Empire, of course," Ulex said, as if explaining something obvious. "Your species will benefit from our protection and technology. In return, you will acknowledge Vosari authority and provide resources and personnel as needed." The room grew quiet. Taiho chose his next words carefully. "We appreciate your offer, Commander Ulex. However, humans seek friendship between equals, not subjugation. We hope to establish trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements." The scales around Ulex's neck flared red. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. The Empire grows always. Species either join willingly or they are made to join. There is no third option." Dr. Lee shifted uncomfortably beside Taiho. He could feel the mood in the room darkening. "Perhaps," Taiho suggested, "we could demonstrate that humans would be more valuable as partners than as subjects. Engineer Park has prepared a presentation of some of our technological achievements." Ulex's 4 arms crossed in what Taiho guessed was skepticism. "Proceed." Jiwon Park stood and activated a holographic display. "This is our FTL, faster than light, drive system. We developed it 50 Earth years ago. It allows our ships to travel between star systems in days instead of centuries." The display showed a simplified version of the human drive system. As Jiwon explained the basics, Taiho noticed the Vosari aides whispering urgently to Ulex. The Supreme Commander's scales shifted to a deep blue color. "Impossible," one of the Vosari aides said. "This drive configuration violates fundamental laws of physics." Jiwon smiled. "Yet here we are, several light years from Earth." Ulex stood suddenly, towering over the humans. "Your species claims to have solved problems that the greatest Vosari minds declared unsolvable. Either you are lying, or you have stumbled upon dangerous technology you cannot possibly understand. We understand it well enough to use it safely, Taiho countered, also standing. Perhaps our different evolutionary paths led to different approaches to science. We will examine this technology ourselves, Ulex declared. Without warning, he grabbed Jiwan's arm. This engineer will explain the systems to our scientists. Taiho stepped forward. Release her immediately. She is not yours to take. Chaos erupted. 2 Vosari guards entered the room. Dr. Lee tried to pull Jiwan away from Ulex, but was thrown across the room by the powerful alien. Officer Han reached for her emergency beacon, but a Vosari struck her before she could activate it. "Security team to the meeting room now!" Taiho shouted into his communicator. He lunged at Ulex, but the massive alien easily knocked him aside. "Your technology will serve the Empire," Ulex said as he dragged Jiwan toward the door. "Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your deaths." The ship's alarm began blaring. Lieutenant Jia's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the Vosari vessel is powering weapons. 3 smaller ships have appeared from behind the moon. They're moving toward the horizon." Taiho struggled to his feet. "All ships, defensive positions, protect the horizon." The Horizon was their main research vessel, containing the most detailed information about human technology. If the Vosari captured it, Ulex and his guards retreated with Jiwan as the security team arrived. Taiho helped Dr. Lee up from the floor. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. "We need to get to the bridge," Taiho said, "and we need to recover Jiwan." The situation deteriorated quickly. By the time Taiho reached the bridge, the Vosari had surrounded the horizon. On screen, he could see the smaller human vessel attempting evasive maneuvers. "Can we reach them?" Taiho asked. Lieutenant Jia shook her head. "Not in time. The Vosari ships are faster than we expected." A brilliant flash of light filled the screen as the Horizon attempted to jump to FTL, but the Vosari weapons disrupted the drive field. Instead of escaping, the ship's engines overloaded. "No," Taiho shouted as the Horizon broke apart. 37 crew members. Gone in an instant. "The Vosari flagship is hailing us," Officer Dohyun reported. Ulex's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Taiho could see Jiwan being held by guards. "This is what defiance brings," Ulex said. "We will study your FTL technology with or without your cooperation. The engineer will help us understand what we have captured from your destroyed vessel. Return our people and leave our space," Taiho demanded, "or you'll face the full response of the Earth Coalition." Ulex laughed. "You're primitive. Species cannot threaten the Empire. You have 3 days to prepare for our return. When we come back, we will expect your full surrender." The communication ended. The Vosari ships turned and accelerated away, taking both captured technology and Jiwan with them. "Sir," Lieutenant Jia said quietly, "what do we do now?" Taiho looked at the debris field where the Horizon had been. Among the dead was Subin Lee's husband, Chief Science Officer Jiho Lee. They had served together for 15 years. "We return to Earth," Taiho said, his voice hard, "and we prepare for war." The Earth Coalition Security Council chamber was filled with angry voices. 24 hours had passed since the Dauntless returned with news of the Vosari attack. Captain Taiho Kim stood before the half-circle of 12 council members, his uniform still bearing the marks of battle. "They destroyed the Horizon without warning," Taiho said. 37 crew members died, and they took Engineer Park prisoner. Admiral Yuna Cho, head of the Coalition fleet, leaned forward. "How much do they know about our technology?" "Hard to say," Taiho replied. "The Horizon had detailed specs of our FTL drives, and now they have Engineer Park." Counselor Daehyun Bak slammed his fist on the table. "We must strike back immediately, show these aliens that humans will not be conquered." "And start an interstellar war we might not win?" countered Counselor Min Kang. "We should try diplomacy again. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding." Taiho shook his head. "There was no misunderstanding, Counselor. Supreme Commander Ulex made their intentions very clear. The Vosari Empire only respects strength. They see our attempts at peace as weakness. The council chamber grew quiet as Fleet Admiral Cho studied a data tablet. Finally, she looked up. Captain Kim, how would you respond to this threat? Taeho had been thinking about this since watching the horizon explode. Admiral, I believe we need to show the Vosari that humans are not what they think we are. They see us as primitive beings who got lucky with technology we don't understand. We need to change that view. A small smile appeared on Admiral Cho's face. You have a plan. Yes, Admiral, I do. On the Vosari command ship, Engineer Jiwon Park sat in a cell. Her body ached from the Vosari's harsh questioning. They had not physically tortured her yet, but their interrogation methods were painful nonetheless. They used sound and light in ways that hurt human senses. The cell door slid open. Supreme Commander Ulex entered, his scales glowing with irritation. Your resistance is pointless, he said. We have examined the wreckage of your research vessel. We will understand your FTL technology, with or without your help. Jiwon looked up at the towering alien. Then why keep questioning me? Ulex leaned closer. Because it makes no sense. Your drive systems violate 6 fundamental laws of physics as we understand them. How did primitives who only reached space a few centuries ago solve problems that have stumped the Empire's greatest minds for millennia? Jiwon smiled despite her pain. Maybe we're not as primitive as you think. Ulex's scales flared red. We have conquered dozens of species, all more advanced than humans. None had achieved what you claim. You are either lying, or you don't understand the technology you use. Test it yourself, Jiwon challenged. Try to build one based on what you found. We are, Ulex said. And when we succeed, we will have no further need for you or your species. After Ulex left, Jiwon closed her eyes. She hoped Captain Kim was planning something. The Vosari were dangerous, but they were also arrogant. That might be humanity's best advantage. What neither Ulex nor Jiwon knew was that someone else watched their conversation. Officer Hyun Choi had been on the horizon when the Vosari attacked. During the chaos, she had managed to board the alien vessel. Everyone thought she had died with the rest of the crew. Hidden in the maintenance tunnels of the Vosari ship, Hyun had spent days learning the vessel's systems. Her small stealth communicator allowed her to send encrypted messages back to Earth. This is Echo 1, she whispered into the device. Target continues to interrogate the prisoner. They are attempting to replicate our FTL technology based on salvaged components. Captain Kim's voice came through, barely audible. Can they succeed? No, Hyun said. They're missing key components and principles, but they're learning quickly. Status of your mission? Hyun checked her small computer pad, which displayed a map of the Vosari ship she had created. I've identified their shield generators, weapon systems, and engine controls. I can disable them when needed. Good, Taeho said. The council has approved my plan. We're sending a rescue fleet. It will arrive in 18 hours. Hyun felt relief wash over her. Will it be enough? The Vosari have 5 warships. Trust me, Taeho replied. The Vosari are about to learn an important lesson about humanity. Supreme Commander Ulex stood on the bridge of his flagship as 5 human vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. They sent so few ships, he said with amusement. Scan them. His science officer worked the controls. 5 vessels, Commander. One is the Dauntless from our previous encounter. The others appear to be similar class. Basic weapons, standard shields. Nothing our fleet cannot handle. Ulex's scales rippled with satisfaction. They must be desperate. Perhaps they hope to negotiate the return of their engineer. Should we hail them? Asked his second-in-command. No, Ulex decided. Let them come to us. Prepare all weapons. If they attack, destroy all but the Dauntless. I want to capture it intact. Aboard the Dauntless, Captain Kim watched the Vosari fleet on the main screen. His small rescue fleet looked outmatched against the massive alien vessels. They're not hailing us, Lieutenant Jia reported. As expected, Taeho said. They think we're desperate or foolish. Dr. Subin Lee stood beside him. After losing her husband on the horizon, she had insisted on joining the rescue mission. Will this work, Captain? It has to, Taeho replied. Is your team ready? Subin nodded. Yes. The moment we have Engineer Park, we can begin. Taiho turned to Communications Officer Mina Han. Send the signal to Hyun. It's time. Mina sent the coded message. On the screen, the Vosari ships maintained their position, waiting for the human fleet to make the first move. All ships advance at half speed, Taiho ordered. Make it look like we're being cautious. The 5 human ships moved forward slowly. The Vosari fleet held position, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They think they know what we're capable of, Taiho said quietly. That's their biggest mistake. On the Vosari flagship, hidden deep in its maintenance system, Officer Hyun Choi received the signal. She moved quickly through the narrow tunnels she had mapped during her days in hiding. At each critical junction, she placed a small device. Finally, she reached the shield generator room. 2 Vosari engineers worked at the controls, unaware of her presence behind a service panel. Hyun placed the last device, then activated her communicator, Echo 1 to Dauntless. Packages are in place. Ready on your command. Acknowledged, came the reply. Stand by. And Hyun, be ready to move fast. Hyun checked her weapon. Copy that. She had one more stop to make. The detention level where they held Jiwon Park. The rescue would only work if they could get Jiwon out alive. From her hiding place, Hyun could see the Vosari preparing for battle. They moved with confidence, certain of their victory over the small human fleet. They had no idea what was coming. Humans, she whispered to herself, are full of surprises. The 5 human ships approached the Vosari fleet slowly. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Taeho Kim watched the tactical display with calm eyes. The Vosari warships were arranged in attack formation, their weapons powered and ready. They're not hailing us, Lieutenant Jia reported. Their weapons are locked on our ships, Taeho nodded. As expected, they think we're either foolish or desperate. Maybe we are, Officer Minahan said quietly. No, Taeho replied. We're something the Vosari have never encountered before. He turned to the communication station. Open a channel to the Vosari flagship. The main screen flickered and Supreme Commander Ulex's face appeared. His scales glowed with what Taiho now recognized as amusement. Captain Kim, Ulex said, have you come to surrender your species to the Empire? Or perhaps you hope to rescue your engineer? Taiho smiled. Neither, Commander. I've come to give you one chance to return our people and leave human space peacefully. Laughter rumbled from Ulex's throat. You are in no position to make demands. Your small fleet is no match for the Empire's might. Surrender now and perhaps we will be merciful to your homeworld. You misunderstand the situation, Commander, Taiho said calmly. You see only what we want you to see. Humanity has survived countless wars among ourselves. We learned long ago to never reveal our true strength until the perfect moment. Ulex's scales shifted to a darker color. Enough talk. Prepare to be boarded. The screen went dark. The Vosari ships began to move, forward spreading out to surround the human vessels. They're using a pincer movement, Lieutenant Jia observed. Standard tactics. Taiho's eyes narrowed. Yes, very predictable. He tapped his console. All ships, execute Maneuver Delta, and send the signal to Echo 1. Deep inside the Vosari flagship, Officer Hyun Choi received the signal. She activated the devices she had planted throughout the ship. One by one, they began to disrupt critical systems. In the shield generator room, the 2 Vosari engineers suddenly noticed their control panels flashing with warning lights. Before they could react, the entire shield system went offline. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. Hyun moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels toward the detention level. She could hear the confused shouts of Vosari crew members as more systems began to fail. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Commander Ulex stared in disbelief at the reports flooding in. Shields are down, weapon systems failing, communications disrupted, his officers shouted over the alarms. How is this possible? Ulex demanded. The humans haven't fired a single shot. His tactical officer looked up from his station, fear in his eyes. Commander, there's something else, Our sensors are detecting new energy signatures all around us. What energy signatures? Show me, Ulex commanded. The main view screen changed to show the space around them. What had appeared to be empty space moments before now shimmered as hundreds of previously invisible ships deactivated their cloaking devices. They had surrounded the Vosari fleet completely. Ulex's scales turned pale. Impossible. On the Dauntless, Tejo watched as the stealth fleet revealed itself. For days, human ships had been positioning themselves throughout the system, using their advanced cloaking technology to remain undetected. Stealth fleet reports ready, Captain, Lieutenant Gia announced. All weapons locked on Vosari vessels. Good, Tejo replied. Status of the Vosari flagship? Multiple systems failing. Their shields are down. Weapons offline. Tejo nodded. Echo 1's work. Now for Phase 2. He opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels execute attack pattern Omega. Target engines and weapons only. We want their ships disabled, not destroyed. The human fleet moved as one. Precision weapons fire struck the Vosari ships at their weakest points. Without shields, the alien vessels took heavy damage quickly. Sir, Officer Mina called out, I'm receiving a transmission from Echo 1. She's reached the detention level. She has Engineer Park. A cheer went up on the bridge. Tejo allowed himself a small smile. Tell her to proceed to extraction point, Alpha, and inform Dr. Lee to prepare her team. Jiwon Park couldn't believe her eyes when her cell door opened to reveal Hyun Choi. Everyone had thought Hyun died when the horizon was destroyed. You're alive! Jiwon gasped as Hyun helped her to her feet. No time to explain, Hyun said, handing Jiwon a small weapon. The fleet is here. We need to move now. They ran through corridors filled with confused and panicked Vosari. The aliens were so focused on the failing ship systems and the battle outside that they barely noticed the two humans. How did you survive the attack? Jiwon asked as they ran. I managed to board their ship during the chaos, Hyun explained. They never knew I was here. I've spent days mapping their systems and planting disruptors. They reached a small maintenance airlock. Hyun checked her device. Our extraction team should be here any minute. Suddenly, 3 Vosari guards appeared at the end of the corridor. They spotted the humans and charged forward. Hyun raised her weapon and fired. The first guard fell, but the others kept coming. Jiwon fired her weapon too, but missed. Just as the Vosari were about to reach them, the airlock door burst open. Dr. Subin Lee stood there with 3 security officers in armored spacesuits. Get in, Subin shouted, firing her weapon past them. At the approaching guards, Hyun and Jiwon jumped through the airlock into the small shuttle beyond. The security team followed, sealing the door behind them. Get us out of here, Subin ordered the pilot. The shuttle detached from the Vosari ship and accelerated away. I can't believe you came for us, Jiwon said, still breathing hard from their escape. Subin handed her a medical kit. Captain Kim would never leave you behind, and I have something special planned for our Vosari friends. On the bridge of his crippled flagship, Supreme Commander Ulex watched in horror as his fleet was systematically disabled. 3 of his ships had already surrendered. Another was trying to escape but found its path blocked by more human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere. We are being hailed by the Dauntless, reported his communications officer. Put it through, Ulex said, his voice hollow with defeat. Captain Kim's face appeared on screen. Supreme Commander, your fleet is disabled. Your shields are down, your weapons are offline. And we just rescued our people from your ship. Do you surrender? Ulex's scales darkened with rage. How? How did you do this? Your species is primitive. Your technology shouldn't work. That's where you made your mistake, Tejo replied calmly. You judged us by what little you saw. The technology we showed you was outdated by our standards. What you called impossible is just the beginning of what humans can do. On a secondary screen, Ulex watched as a small shuttle docked with the Dauntless. His prisoners had escaped. Your stealth technology, Ulex said. Our sensors detected nothing. One of many technologies we didn't share during our first meeting, Tejo said. Humans learned long ago to keep our true capabilities hidden. We've survived our own wars by always being prepared for the worst. Rage gave way to fear as Ulex realized the true extent of the trap they had fallen into. What happens now? Now, Taiho said, you learn what happens when you threaten humanity. 1 week after the battle, Supreme Commander Ulex sat in a holding cell aboard the Dauntless. His once bright scales had dulled to a pale gray. The mighty Vosari leader looked smaller somehow, hunched on a bench designed for humans. The door slid open. Captain Taiho Kim entered alone, carrying a small metal case. Supreme Commander, Taiho said with a respectful nod. Ulex did not return the gesture. Have you come to gloat, Captain? No, Taiho replied, sitting down across from the alien. I've come to talk about what happens next. Ulex's 4 arms crossed over his chest. You will kill me, I assume. Or perhaps use me as a hostage. Taiho shook his head. Neither. The Earth Coalition Security Council has made its decision. You will be returned to the Empire, along with the crews of your ships. Surprise flickered across Ulex's alien features. You're letting us go? After what we did? Yes, Taiho said simply. Humans do not seek conquest or vengeance. We want peace, but we will defend ourselves when threatened. Ulex's scales rippled with confusion. I don't understand your species. You have the power to destroy us, yet you choose not to use it. Taiho opened the metal case he had brought. Inside was a small crystal data storage device. This contains information about Earth and humanity, Taiho explained. Not our military secrets or advanced technology, but enough to help your leaders understand who we are. I want you to take it back to your empire. Ulex stared at the crystal. Why would you share any information with us? Because I want you to understand what you are facing, Taiho said. It might prevent future conflict. He activated a small projector. Images appeared in the air between them. Ancient human battlefields, world wars, nuclear explosions, and finally, the unified Earth Coalition. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other, Taiho explained. Every weapon, every strategy, every technology we developed was first tested against ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times. The images showed massive destruction, then rebuilding, then more war, in an endless cycle. When we finally unified and reached for the stars, we carried those lessons with us, Taiho continued. We hoped to find peace among the stars, but we never stopped preparing for war. It's built into our history, our thinking. Ulex watched the images with growing understanding. The Empire has never faced serious opposition. We conquered easily, because other species were not prepared for conflict. Exactly, Taiho said. The Vosari never had to evolve the way humans did. You never faced the constant threat of extinction from your own kind. The projector showed humans working together to build starships and colonies. We prefer peace, Taiho said. But we are always ready for war. 2 days later, Engineer Jiwon Park stood beside Captain Kim on the observation deck. Below them, medical teams were treating the last of the Vosari prisoners before their release. Are you sure about this, Captain? Jiwon asked. Letting them go means they'll return with more ships. Maybe, Taiho replied. But I'm hoping they'll be smarter next time. Officer Hyun Choi joined them, still moving carefully from injuries she had suffered during her time on the Vosari ship. The transport is ready for the prisoners. Supreme Commander Ulex will be the last to board. Dr. Subin Lee approached carrying a tablet. Captain, I've finished my analysis of the Vosari technology we captured. Their ships are advanced in many ways, but they've developed along completely different scientific principles than ours. That's why they couldn't understand our FTL drives, Jiwon added. Their physics works differently than ours. Not wrong, just different. Taiho nodded. 2 species can look at the same universe and see it in completely different ways. That's something worth preserving. Subin's expression hardened. They killed my husband and 36 others. They don't deserve mercy. I understand your pain, Taiho said gently. But this isn't about mercy. It's about who we want to be as a species. If we destroy them, we become just another conquering empire. A young officer approached. Captain, Supreme Commander Ulex is ready for transport. I'll escort him personally, Taiho said. The Vosari transport ship waited in the docking bay. The surviving Vosari crew had already boarded. Only Ulex remained, standing near the entrance with 2 human guards. Taiho dismissed the guards and walked with Ulex the final few meters to the ship. Your council has granted you a small vessel. With basic engines, Taiho explained. It will take you to the nearest Vosari outpost. We've also included medical supplies for your injured. Ulex studied the human captain. Why not simply destroy us? You have the capability. Because we're not like you, Taiho answered. We don't seek conquest, just security. Tell your leaders, there's a boundary now. Human space is off limits. Ulex was silent for a moment. And if the Empire ignores this warning? Taiho's face hardened. Then we will defend ourselves with everything we have, and the Vosari will discover just how creative humans can be when fighting for survival. They reached the ship's entrance. Ulex turned to face Taiho one last time. I will deliver your message, Captain Kim. But I must also report what I have seen, the hidden fleet, the technology that breaks our understanding of physics, the fact that you could have destroyed us but chose not to. Tell them everything, Taiho said. They should know what they would be facing. Ulex nodded slowly. I believe I now understand why your species survived its own violent history. You are dangerous not because you love war, but because you have mastered it while still valuing peace. The alien commander boarded his ship. Before the door closed, he turned and spoke what would become his famous warning to the Empire. I will tell them to stay away from human territory. Their space is a place of impossible physics and unbreakable wills. They don't conquer because they don't need to. And if we force them to fight again, there will be no coming back for any of us. 3 days later, Captain Taiho Kim stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching as the last of the human fleet prepared to return to Earth. Engineer Jiwon Park and Officer Hyun Choi stood beside him. Do you think they'll come back? Jiwon asked. Eventually, Taiho replied, but next time they'll approach us differently. Hyun smiled. They thought they were dealing with lucky primitives. Now they know better. That's the thing about humans, Taiho said, looking out at the stars. We hope for the best but prepare for the worst. We dream of peace while mastering war. It's a contradiction that has kept us alive for thousands of years. Dr. Subin Lee joined them on the bridge. The grief for her husband was still visible in her eyes, but something else was there too. Determination. The Coalition Council is establishing a permanent defense fleet in this sector, she informed them. They're calling it the Boundary Force. Admiral Cho has asked me to lead the scientific division. You're staying out here? Taiho asked. Subin nodded. Someone needs to make sure the Vosari keep their distance. And I want to study the differences between our technologies. There's so much we could learn from each other, if they ever decide to talk instead of conquer. Taiho smiled. That was humanity in a nutshell, reaching for knowledge even while standing ready to fight. Set course for Earth, he ordered. As the Dauntless turned toward home, he thought about Ulex's final words. The Vosari commander had finally understood what made humans different, not just their technology, but their contradictory nature. Humans didn't conquer the stars because they didn't need to. They had already conquered their greatest enemy, themselves. Everything else was just a matter of being prepared. There's no coming back from human space, Taiho whispered to himself. It wasn't a threat. It was simply the truth.